Let's try to do aerobic cellular respiration. And I wish I could guarantee exactness, but we're going to do the best we can. It's 2021. Let's draw in a large cell, and let's make it a double membrane cell, as cells are eukaryotic cells. Let's do that. It's not very pretty, but it'll work. This is the cell. And the next thing I want to do is I want to put in the formula. C6H12O6 plus O2 makes CO2 plus H2O plus ATP. That is the formula for aerobic cellular respiration. To balance it, we would need 6 CO2s and 6 waters, 6 oxygens. Very good. The ATP is not part of the equation. It really represents energy, which ultimately is derived from the sun. By the way, I'll put a link in the description below, and that way you'll be able to download this drawing. Yay. Let's draw a mitochondria next, and I'm kind of making it look like a footprint, which is kind of how I think that mitochondria look. Mitochondrion is singular. So what happens is that glucose and oxygen are products of photosynthesis, and so one of the first steps is the capture of glucose and then the breakdown in a process called glycolysis. And what I want you to note here is that this is a 6 carbon fragment, so I want you to draw 6 beads here for glucose. And in the process of glycolysis, this chemical is broken into 2 3 carbon fragments, and these are called pyruvates. This is what happens when you have oxygen as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain / chemiosmosis system over there. These are fragments called pyruvate. And in the process of glycolysis, there are 2 ATPs generated, and then there are 2 NADHs generated. These are vitamin B type molecules that transfer electrons and hydrogens, as you're going to see. These are going to be used in the end to make water from this oxygen. The second major step is the Krebs cycle. There's a transition step, and we're going to get back to that in a minute. This is Krebs. That's an R. Krebs cycle. Let's draw this to look cyclic. And then the last step occurs in the walls, and this is the electron transport chain, ETC is how I am showing that. Each one of these pyruvate molecules will be taken inside of the mitochondrion, and when that happens, each one of these is going to lose a CO2. So there is going to be a CO2 lost from that fragment, and then there's going to be another one lost from that fragment. So there are 2 of your CO2s accounted for. In this step, this transition step, these 2 3 carbon fragments get one of the carbons cleaved off of each one. These are acetyl-CoA, and then these are going to go into the Krebs cycle. They bond with oxaloacetate to form citric acid, which is a 6 carbon intermediate, or yes, that's why this is sometimes called the citric acid cycle, because the 4-carbon oxaloacetate or oxaloacetic acid mixed with the acetyl-CoAs makes citric acid. Now, as this churns through, all of these carbons, and we'll say it's those for now, all of these get cleaved, and all of those CO2s are produced from the Krebs cycle. So there are the other 4, so that we have 6 CO2s all in total here, as a result from the breakdown of 1 molecule of glucose with 6 oxygen molecules. Now, in this step here, there are 2 ATPs, the Krebs cycle. We got to go back to this one before I forget, though. This transition step generates 2 NADHs. The Krebs cycle generates a total of 6 NADHs and 2 riboflavins, FADH2. Now, let's add all of this up. We have 2 NADHs, 2 NADHs, and 6. So that's a total of 2 and 2 and 6 makes how many? That's 10. There is an idea that each one of these NADHs cashes in for 3 ATPs. If that happens, then that would give you 10 times 3 is 30 ATP in this last step right here. The riboflavins, 2 FADH2s, cash in for 2 each. That would be 2 times 2 is 4 ATPs. There are 2 ATPs generated in glycolysis, and then there are 2 ATPs generated in the Krebs cycle. When you add this up, there are 38 ATPs. This is the old school calculation. Some of the newer calculations have the trade 10 times 2.5 and 2 times 1.5. That would give you a different number, but for now we're going to say that this is the legitimate count. And I have another video explaining the differential count that is probably the more recent version of the counting and conversion process here. The last step that I want to show is that in the electron transport chain, the oxygens are transformed into water. How do they do that? You've got oxygens here. I see hydrogens here, and I see hydrogens here, NADH. So if you add oxygen to hydrogen, what do you get? A high quality compound called called H2O, and in this case we get 6 of them from the complete oxidation of 1 molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen, and we also get 6 CO2s, and we get ATPs. You've seen that, about 38 ATPs.